drawn and redrawn, the making of India's internal boundaries.
Hi, and welcome back to India's State Stories, a project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is supported by the Centre for Legislative Education and Research, Flame University, Pune.
Integration of princely states was a complex process which resulted in the new states that were divided into 4 administrative categories, parts A, B, C, and D. This series focuses on the 3 main categories that are part A, B, and C. In the first part, we will be exploring the integration of princely states that formed the part A states. In other words, they were absorbed and merged into their respective British provinces. These range from major states like Baroda, Kolhapur to smaller and little known regions like Sandur and patchwork of states in modern day Gujarat and Orissa. The merger agreements for most of the states were modelled after Orissa and Chhattisgarh state mergers, and their administration was transferred to provincial governments. Now let's look at the stories of each of these in more detail in the following episodes. Listen to the first 3 episodes of Season 2 to understand a deeper context. These episodes give an overview of the entire process of integration, along with an introduction to the legal instruments and some key personalities which made it possible. More details are in the show notes below, and let's dive in.
Have you ever considered the sheer complexity of nation building, especially when it involves, merging hundreds of small, independent territories into a cohesive whole?
It's rarely simple, is it?
Not at all. It's a delicate dance of history, politics, and, human emotion. Today, we're taking a deep dive into precisely that pivotal moment in India's history. We're zooming in on a specific and often overlooked part of the story: the integration of princely states into the Madras Province.
That's such a crucial aspect of post-independence India, but it often gets overshadowed by the grander narratives of partition and independence itself.
Exactly.
So we're going to explore how 3 specific, historically distinct, isolated states, Pudukkottai, Banganpalle, and Sandur, each with its own unique history and challenges, navigated their path into the newly formed Madras Province.
And what's striking is how different their stories are.
Completely. It really offers you a granular glimpse into the immense complexities of this integration process.
That's a great way to put it. Our mission today is really to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from our sources, uncovering the unique paths each state took.
The hesitations, the quick decisions,
the swift decisions, and even the lingering dissatisfactions that sometimes followed. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much richer understanding of these local histories and, importantly, why they matter to the larger story of India's formation. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Right. Let's begin with Pudukkottai. This was a state that truly stood out in its own right, spanning about 1,170 square miles, population less than 500,000. Strategically located, too, north of Madurai and west of Tanjore. So not just some minor principality, it had a significant presence.
Oh, definitely. And what's truly fascinating about Pudukkottai is its deep historical roots, founded way back in 1686 by Raghunatha Raya Tondaiman.
Wow, 1686.
Yeah, but perhaps more significantly, it carved out a truly unique position for itself through its valuable military assistance to the British.
Ah, the British connection.
Crucial support against the French, Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, and also in the Polygar Wars during the 18th century. These Polygar Wars, just for context, were these regional conflicts with local chieftains in southern India resisting British expansion.
Right, the local powers pushing back.
Exactly. And Pudukkottai's support wasn't a one-off thing. It was a sustained pattern of, strategic loyalty.
So, digging into that loyalty, what were the specific, tangible benefits Pudukkottai secured? Because our sources indicate this long-standing allegiance had a profound impact.
It really did.
Pudukkottai actually escaped the permanent settlement in Madras Presidency in 1803. Now, this was a system that essentially turned many other states into zamindars, basically land tax collectors for the British.
It often meant losing some administrative and financial independence.
Precisely. But Pudukkottai avoided this fate because its status wasn't recorded in any formal treaty or senat, those royal grants or charters. And this exemption was largely due to its timely military aid and supplies to the British, dating back as early as 1751. way before the settlement was even implemented. So I guess the question is, what does this unique exemption tell us about the real currency of power back then? Was it just military might?
That's a great question. I think it highlights the pragmatic, sometimes unwritten nature of colonial relationships. Loyalty, especially military aid in crucial moments, could be rewarded outside formal treaties. It could even bypass major administrative policies.
So the rulers understood the game.
They certainly seemed to, and the state was also known for being remarkably well administered. You had notable figures like Sir Asa Shea Sastry and Sir Alexander Loftus Tottenham, both capable administrators.
Right.
And its prosperity was also boosted by the Pudukkottai Shettiars, a powerful community of hereditary bankers and traders. So, a strong economic base, too.
Okay, so fast forward to independence. The integration process kicks off. VP Menon, a key architect of India's integration efforts.
The main man, really.
He invites the Rajagopala Pandaiman Bahadur, to Delhi. Now, you have to imagine being this Raja, only 26 years old at the time,
So young.
and being presented with the proposal to merge your ancestral state, this lineage stretching back centuries. Our sources tell us he was, quote, completely overwhelmed.
I can believe it.
He and his advisor apparently offered no immediate response, just this moment of profound hesitation before eventually signing the merger agreement on February 29th, 1948.
But he had signed the instrument of accession earlier, hadn't he? After meeting Patel.
Yes, that's right. He had already signed the instrument of accession, that initial legal step aligning the state with India on defense, external affairs, communications, after a personal meeting with Sardar Patel. But the merger agreement was the full deal.
Absolutely. Accession was the first step, establishing the basic link. Merger meant full administrative absorption. So, okay, the agreement is signed. What were the immediate practicalities? How did the new Indian government handle integrating Pudukkottai day to day?
Well, administratively, Pudukkottai was made a revenue division within the Tiruchirappalli district. The collector, a V.V. Subramanian, took over administration on behalf of the Indian government on March 3rd, 1948.
Okay.
And the Raja's privy purse, that annual payment from the new government and his private properties, were settled based on recommendations from the government of Madras. So, on paper, it looked like a fairly managed transition.
Seemed orderly.
But, and this is crucial for understanding the real human impact, the story doesn't end there. A significant challenge popped up pretty quickly: complaints from the people's leaders in Pudukkottai.
Ah, okay. What kind of complaints?
Well, our sources suggest it wasn't just vague discontent. It seems to have revolved around specific concerns: resource allocation, a perceived lack of local representation in the new setup, maybe feels about losing their unique cultural identity and historical legacy.
So the administrative merger didn't automatically mean local satisfaction.
Not at all. It showed how deeply local governance was tied to community feeling. Menon himself actually had to intervene. He met with the Premier of Madras at the time, Omandur P. Ramaswamy Reddyar, who promised to address these grievances.
Did it work?
Apparently not entirely. Despite those efforts, the dissatisfaction persisted. It just shows us that even a state with this rich history and what looked like a smooth paper trail could face real everyday challenges in the reality of integration.
A complex picture.
A dramatically different picture, it seems, from our next state. Let's shift from those complexities and lingering grievances in Pudukkottai to a more straightforward narrative, the integration of Banganpalle.
Right, Banganpalle.
This was a small Muslim state, only about 275 square miles, population around 40,000.
Yeah.
What do our sources suggest made its integration so much smoother?
You're right, it is a striking contrast. Its origins trace back to a jagir, that's a land grant given by a ruler, usually for services granted by the king of Bijapur. So it had its own distinct history, but perhaps not as deeply intertwined with the British militarily as Pudukkottai was.
Less leverage, maybe.
Possibly. And compared to Pudukkottai, its merger process was, well, notably uncomplicated. The Nawab, Fazl Ali Khan Bahadur, signed the merger agreement on February 18, 1948.
And the takeover.
The Madras government took over administration just 5 days later, February 23, 1948. The speed is really quite remarkable.
5 days. And our sources, they don't mention an overwhelmed ruler or any significant post-merger complaints here, do they?
No, nothing like the Pudukkottai situation is mentioned.
So what factors might have led to Banganpalle's swift and, well, seemingly seamless integration? Was it just its smaller size, a different political culture? Or maybe the Nawab himself just saw the writing on the wall?
I think it's likely a combination of things. Its smaller size and population certainly would have made it administratively simpler. Larger states just had more complex structures and entrenched interests.
Makes sense.
Banganpal's specific history might have also given his ruler less, let's say, historical credit with the British to bargain with, unlike Pudukkottai's military record.
Right.
And the sources do suggest a pragmatic approach from the Nawab, perhaps a recognition of the inevitable, especially given the state's more modest resources. It just made for a much less contentious process, both at the signing table and seemingly for the people afterward.
Okay, so a much quieter transition there.
Yeah.
Now, our third state for this deep dive is Sandur, perhaps the most geographically unique of the three.
Definitely unique. It was a small island state, completely surrounded by the Madras Province itself, specifically within the Bellary district.
Tiny, too, just 168 square miles, population around 15,814. Characterized by hills and jungle, quite distinct from its neighbors, almost like a little world unto itself.
It really was. And its ruling house, the Gorpade family, had a significant lineage linked to the Basils of Satara. Founded by Sidoji, who conquered the state from a local Bedar tribe Poligar, a Bedar Poligar being a chieftain from the Bedar community, often local warriors in that region.
So another state with its own history, did it also have dealings with the British?
It did, yes. Historically, Sandur had its moments. In 1817, the East India Company demanded its surrender while they were assisting the Maratha Prime Minister under the Treaty of Bassein.
Ah, caught in the middle of larger power plays.
Exactly. But then, after the fall of the Peshwas, the ruler Siva Rao was actually reinstated in 1818. This was on the recommendation of Colonel Monroe, and he received a Sanad in 1826.
So it shows those shifting alliances, doesn't it? A state could be absorbed and then spat back out again.
Precisely. It reflects the very fluid power structures of the early 19th century.
Now, connecting this to the bigger picture of integration, VP Menon, looking at the sheer practicalities, noted something specific about Sandur, didn't he?
He did. He basically said that for a state as small as Sandur, its limited size and resources just made its future as a separate entity unviable. Completely impractical.
So, from the outset, Menon saw it had no real future except merging with Madras, a pragmatic assessment driven by the realities of statecraft. You couldn't sustain an independent state that small surrounded like that.
No, not realistically. So, following that assessment, Menon invited the ruler to Delhi for discussions about this, inevitable merger.
Was the ruler keen?
Apparently, he was reluctant at first, which is understandable, facing the dissolution of your ancestral domain. But he eventually signed the merger agreement on April 1st, 1949.
And the terms?
He received a privy purse of Rs 90,000 as part of the settlement. The agreement itself formally stated that it was, quote, in the best interests of both Sandur and the Dominion of India for the state's administration to be handled by the Dominion government, underscoring the perceived mutual benefit.
Right. And what's interesting here is how its identity continued to evolve even after that initial integration. When Andhra Province was formed later,
It got moved again.
exactly, Sandur was transferred again, this time to Mysore, which shows these initial mergers weren't always the final word on administrative boundaries. Why did these lines keep shifting even after that first wave of integration?
That's a really crucial point. It highlights the ongoing dynamic process of state reorganization in independent India. The initial mergers were primarily about bringing the princely states into the Indian Union, right? Getting them under the umbrella.
Step one.
Step one. But then came the much larger, much more complex question of internal administrative boundaries. And this was often driven by linguistic considerations. Think about the States Reorganization Act of 1956. It dramatically redrew the map of India along linguistic lines.
Ah, the linguistic states movement.
Precisely. So for a tiny state like Sandur, its fate was tied not just to its initial integration into Madras, but also to these subsequent larger administrative and linguistic reorganizations. That's what led to its transfer to Mysore, which became Karnataka later. It just illustrates that nation building isn't a single event, it's a multi-stage process.
Fascinating how these small places get caught up in much bigger currents. Okay, so let's pull back. What does this all mean when we look at Pudukkottai, Banganpalle, and Sandur together? We've seen quite a spectrum, haven't we?
Definitely a spectrum.
You've got a state with a glorious past, struggling with post-merger neglect, even dissatisfaction. Then a straightforward, almost seamless transition. And finally, a tiny island state whose fate was almost predetermined by its size and then reshaped again by later shifts.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, VP Menon, whose perspective is so valuable here. He observed that the overall merger of these small, isolated states into big provinces like Madras was generally smooth.
Generally smooth, despite cases like Pudukkottai's issues.
Yes, overall. And he attributed this success largely to the presence of trained civil servants and experienced ministers within the provincial governments themselves. That existing administrative capacity was key.
So the infrastructure was already there to absorb them relatively efficiently.
Exactly. That efficiency played a crucial role in managing these transitions and integrating these diverse territories without, widespread unrest. The ability of the new Indian government structure to step in and manage was vital.
It's such a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even within a shared historical event, this massive undertaking of integrating hundreds of states, the experiences on the ground at the local level could be incredibly diverse, so nuanced.
Absolutely.
You see the strategic importance of past allegiances playing out, you see pragmatic acceptance of inevitable change, and you see the very real human element. Hesitation, reluctance, even dissatisfaction that could linger for years.
These are the threads, really, the threads that weave the rich tapestry of a newly independent nation. It shows that history is never just one single, uniform story.
What an incredible deep dive into these three small states. Each played their part, however differently, in the larger story of India's integration. We've really seen how varied their journeys were.
From Pudukkottai's ancient lineage and its post-merger challenges,
To Banganpalle's quick, pragmatic transition.
and Sandur's geographical uniqueness, its eventual transfer, driven by those later linguistic reorganizations.
It truly brings to life the nuanced, complex, and frankly deeply human process of building a modern nation.
Absolutely. You can really see how historical ties, the administrative capabilities, both of the old states and the new government, and just sheer geographical and resource realities all came together to shape these different outcomes.
It's a real testament to the layers of human experience and political maneuvering that lie beneath even the most sort of definitive historical events. So as you reflect on this, maybe consider how many smaller stories within the story existed across India during this tumultuous period of nation building, each with its own unique blend of history, negotiation, and human sentiment.
And what other regional narratives might reveal similarly intricate processes, not just in India, but elsewhere, shaping the map and identity of modern nations?
That's a great point. And maybe consider how many of those local struggles, those feelings of being overlooked or boundaries being redrawn, might still echo in political landscapes today. Something to think about.